crypto grinds lower as Trump threatens further tariffs. We cover all this right now in the Collective Shift weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. Got Simon here with me this week, and we're ready to crack into it. A bit of a quieter week, but a lot of altcoin news. Some certain big launches this week as well, which we'll get into. But kicking things off with the market update. And it was just another story of grinding lower and the market all just reacting to Trump's tariff news, wasn't it, Simon?
Yeah, I think it was nice to have a quieter week compared to the week before, I guess, really, because, that kind of volatility always gets everybody's emotions on check. But I think that we're just in this state of perpetual what's Trump going to do next. And so that's what the market's just waiting around for. What's he going to do next? And so that's why I feel we're still in this crab market territory. I think, especially for Bitcoin, is going to be crab marketing in some of the majors, because what's Trump going to do next? No one knows. How's it going to affect the global markets in general? And so I think people are going a little bit more risk off.
Yeah, for sure. I think very much in a holding pattern. And, as we talked about last week, that was fresh off the news with regards to Trump's tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Both of them ended up getting pushed back by 1 month after negotiations. China, those tariffs have started. And China has also retaliated with some of their own tariffs against the US. And even just in the past 24, 48 hours, actually, I think it was on his way to the Super Bowl, of all things, Trump mentioned that he's planning to impose 25% import taxes on all steel and aluminium products entering the US. So, yeah, quite a hefty one there. It's, again, no confirmation yet, but it seems like it's going to be a universal tariff, like without any exemptions, even on countries such as Australia. So we'll see what happens there. Again, the whole sort of global market is very much in a holding pattern. And we sort of explained why it's a bit uncertain for crypto and what this actually sort of means for crypto. We talked a bit about that last week, so I won't really repeat ourselves, but ultimately we just need a bit more, or we need the uncertainty to decrease, or some more certainty in the markets would be very much what the crypto side of things is wanting. But yeah, the jury's out on how long that actually takes.
Yeah, and I think the market just needs to digest these news items as they come in, because, really risk assets like crypto, I just don't like market uncertainty. And so that's why everyone in crypto right now is a bit fearful, because crypto, especially being a volatile, risky asset, doesn't like uncertainty. And Trump's tariffs and everything that he's doing right now is certainly uncertain for risk assets. So, yeah, crab market, everyone wants to just wait and see what Trump does next, which is a hard thing to invest in.
Yeah. Well said. Often in crypto, there's a lot of reasons for all sorts of price action up or down, but this is actually a rarer occasion where I think the short-term outlook is just as simple as what you just said there, Simon. We'll wait for more confirmation there. But in the meantime, we've got a rebranding of sorts, not for a crypto project, but actually a company for once in the crypto space. What have we got here?
This has to be one of the least needed things that we have to talk about, really, is that MicroStrategy rebrands its name to just Strategy.
Sign of the times.
Absolutely a sign of the times. I'm sure you saw the icon like I did. It actually has Strategy and then has the Bitcoin symbol up in the top corner. So I thought they were renaming the company to Strategy B, which to me actually makes more sense than just renaming it Strategy. But hey, maybe they've got much better marketers than us around. But I think the bigger news is that what's Strategy been doing? Well, they've been buying Bitcoin, of course. So they've bought like another 7,500 Bitcoin between February 3rd and February 9th. So they're definitely here to buy the dip. And so they're just continuing what Strategy does best, which is buying more Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so it was great to see them returning to accumulating just after a 1 week break. I think they'd gone 12 consecutive weeks of really propping up the price of Bitcoin, to be honest, through their accumulation. And yeah, now having 1 week off, I think, for their earnings season and reportings, they're straight back into accumulation mode. And, I think that in and of itself is a powerful effect on the market. But I think even the effect of Strategy, in a sense of teaching other companies how to adopt a similar approach with their treasury management, can also have a profound effect over time on the price of Bitcoin. So here in particular, I'm talking about Meta Planet, which has long been sort of heralded in a sense of the MicroStrategy or strategy of Japan. Essentially, they're just running the exact same playbook of issuing shares and then using any excess assets there from those capital raises to acquire Bitcoin if it makes financial sense to do so. All individual companies around the world, adopting and jumping on board with Strategy's sort of playbook that they're pioneered. I think that can have a big effect on Bitcoin over time. Plus, you've got the likes of Tether, one of the world's most profitable companies, continuing to accumulate. You add in things like BlackRock and Fidelity continuing to accumulate on behalf of their ETF holders. And all of a sudden that really explains, I think, the real divergence in price that you've seen for Bitcoin and everything else. Also last week, as we talked about in our latest episode, the Trump administration had their first sort of press conference dedicated to crypto. As I think Simon correctly predicted, it was very much a nothing burger. So it was symbolic in a sense of really just multiple, heads of different committees and whatnot, as well as David Sachs, so the AI and crypto czar for the Trump administration. They more or less just, reaffirmed what they're prioritizing in terms of crypto. Also mentioning, things like looking into the Bitcoin reserve that, Trump had ordered these people to do so like a week earlier. So yeah, it was more just symbolic more than anything. And again, I think we talk about tariffs having the market in a bit of a holding pattern. I would still even go to the extent of predicting that even if those tariffs were out of the picture, I could still see a scenario where we'd be in this holding pattern anyway, given the lag time that we're having for these Trump executive orders and getting these reports back to, I guess, the White House in terms of what the US is going to prioritize with the strategic Bitcoin reserve and other, I guess, important matters related to crypto. So yeah, there's two big factors that I think have us here in February 2025, just sort of sitting, as I said, in a holding pattern.
It was definitely an announcement to say, hey, we're still thinking about you, crypto.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of feel it was. We haven't forgotten, and then these are the things that we're focusing on. And the main really takeaway from it was they are focusing on the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So that to me, I guess, is, bullish news in general, but they've kicked the can down the road for when they're actually going to make this happen. But it's also set up some expectations in my mind now, because if all they announce from this now is that all they're going to do is just not sell the Bitcoin they already have, I think that would actually be bearish news, because that's probably not enough for the appetite of what the market expects and wants. So I think anything short of them saying that they are, going to buy some, I think will probably be bearish for the market. So we kind of have some dates in place, but we know they're focusing on it. And that was the reminder, hey, this is front and center for our minds to talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yeah, certainly. That's important there. I think over my years, just investing in crypto, you tend to see, sort of balanced opinions at the start. If you're waiting 6 months or 4 months for something, you tend to see balanced, takes at the start. And then as we get closer to that date and as time goes on, of people just twiddling their thumbs, you tend to see, the skewing more towards an extreme opinion. So in this sense, I think you're correct. I could definitely see a scenario where the market is all of a sudden having such high expectations of what this announcement, that they're going to be waiting so long, that it could certainly be a sell the news event.
Yeah, and there'll be definitely, all sorts of, leakage or thoughts what's going on to it. Similar to when we had the Bitcoin ETF, there was lots of positive and negative signs going on around it. So we were always kept guessing as to what was actually going to happen. So I guess moving on to the next thing, which is, talking about the odds of altcoin ETFs coming up. So Bloomberg analysts have been saying that they're expecting some more ETFs approved this year. And I'm not going to necessarily trust the Bloomberg analysts quite so much as I might start trusting things like Polymarket, which was so good at predicting the US election. So similar to what's going to happen with the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, I'm going to be watching Polymarket, because that's kind of proven to me in many ways that it's a really good source of truth for what's actually going to happen. But, the likes of Litecoin, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin is all having approvals. That's, obviously good for the space, allows more exposure, allows easier money to come in. But let's not forget also that Ethereum has an ETF now, and it hasn't done much for price action. So it's not exactly like its number go up just because you get an ETF, is it?
Yeah, certainly. I think it'd be number go up maybe at the time of an approval, and then that's about it. I would not have any high expectations at all about how popular these products would be if they're eventually approved. It's very likely, even I've heard that these ETF issuers might just run these more or less as a marketing exercise to say that they're sort of leaning into crypto, and they might end up just, realizing consecutive losses on these products if they are to not get much demand, which I suspect they would. And that eventually, I think even in years to come, if they continue not to see much demand, they'd eventually, cut the products, because it does, have a lot of operating costs to the compliance costs and whatnot to keep these ETFs going. So I think that's something a lot of crypto investors don't think about, but certainly in the time leading up to it, it's all exciting. But yeah, for me, Simon, I think one simple thing that I'd love to see in that second column there is if BlackRock in particular is to come in, and in particular for me, a Solana ETF application would be something that I would expect the market to, is really not expecting at all. And that would be something that would really, in my opinion, cause the price to rally quite significantly. But yeah, even personally, like, I'm not expecting that to happen in 2025 in terms of BlackRock filing for any other crypto ETF. But if it does come, in my opinion, it'll come out of left field as far as the market's concerned, and that would really send a rocket up any of these assets here, even XRP, to be honest. That would also be a very big catalyst if it was to come. So just a note there.
That's a good point, because when BlackRock announced their Bitcoin ETF, it kind of basically made everyone said, okay, well, it's going to happen now because BlackRock have so much
absolutely
power, I guess, around it. So you make a very good point there. But what I'm more interested in, I think maybe we have to go through this process of getting individual ones. And I think the market probably wants more is a basket ETF. So you can buy an ETF which buys you a certain percentage of all the different crypto assets out there. I think that is probably what the market will want more of. And I don't know the process. Maybe they need individual ones before they can do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's certainly something I hope happens as well in the future. And I suppose on to altcoins. Some of these, may even have ETFs in years to come. We've got a few updates over the past week or so. We'll save probably, I guess, the most topical one or the most divisive one till the end here. I think there's some strong opinions either way. But Bittensor, we'll kick things off with. They have their upgrade probably by the time this podcast is going out. So this is the largest upgrade to date, and it's dTAO or dynamic TAO. So this is something that sort of integrating. It's just more or less just upending and overhauling Bittensor's incentive mechanism. There won't really be many visible differences in terms of how Bittensor works from like a user standpoint. But what you will see if you are using all these subnets and whatnot is all of these subnets will now be getting their own token, which is a similar approach I think the likes of Helium have taken there. So again, really just helping the longevity, trying to sort of guarantee that a bit more than the limitations that come with just having the TAO token do everything for individual subnets. So that's something that's been coming for a while now, and hey, we'll see if that results in any more adoption there for Bittensor. Another big upgrade here, Simon?
I'm on the fence of whether I would call it big, but it's definitely an upgrade, is that Arweave has released its AO on mainnet. And so Arweave was obviously one of the pioneers, I guess, of crypto data storage, really, blockchain data storage, I should say. And they probably haven't really hit a product market fit or really maybe just had much network effect going on with it. So they needed to probably do something to bolster their product, and creating this AO mainnet is basically what they're doing. So what is it kind of really doing for them, I guess? I mean, in my opinion, it's just allowing them to probably, actually it just kind of came to me then, is that it's actually probably, I guess, competing with Walrus on Sui, which is kind of trying to be more of a programmable element of blockchain data storage in many ways. So I'm sure there's plenty of different technical elements of it, but I think that's, to me, my kind of take on what it's trying to do. They're trying to make more programmable data storage, which I think is a good thing because obviously their current product is not working.
Yeah, I think we'll hear more about that maybe at ETH Denver, I think in a few weeks. I think they announced AO about this time last year at ETH Denver, and yeah, that sort of has coincided with the mainnet launch of this. So yeah, whether it gets any traction or whether something like Walrus really steals market share there, we'll see. But Another release that we had jotted down here is Berachain. So yeah, this is the one that has, I guess, in this current climate, Simon, with just altcoin sentiment just so down bad, I have noticed. I think there's just a lot more. I don't know. Everyone's just a bit more down in the dumps in terms of just like, why do we need another blockchain? Everyone's a bit more negative in terms of any new project that comes out. You tend to see it sell off quite dramatically. And that's certainly the case with Berachain, which, to be honest, about 18 months ago, if I was to say what are going to be the biggest launches of this bull market, like I would have said Berachain would be one of them, but certainly by the time it has come out now in February 2025, it really hasn't gone too well in the first few days, with the valuation only coming, I guess it's all relative, but it's only at about $2.5 to $3 billion FDV, which if it was to come out maybe 18, 12 months ago, I could almost guarantee that would be above 10 billion. So, whether the market now is just being a lot more realistic, I suppose, is an argument there. That's certainly what we've seen happen with Berachain in the past few days.
Must have been close to 6 months ago when we did a deep dive into Berachain, as well as some of the other next gen layer ones that were coming out. And the main thing that my take from Berachain back then was that could a bear themed layer one actually compete? Because, so many ways these days, the tech is really not that different. Like, I'm sure there's some minute differences, and I know that they're using a proof of liquidity mechanism in it instead of just a proof of stake. But, I think these are all slightly peripheral things around the edges. And so this one was really heavily leaning into the bear theme, I think, was kind of its main point of difference that I could see. And that's, great for meme elements of it, but is it great for institutional elements of it? And my take on it back then was no, and my take on it now is very much so no. And I think the biggest comparison I've got is that it has not had a good launch at all, with price only going down. And people say, well, all these coins launched at a really high, fully diluted value, especially, and price dumps after that. And I will go, yes, you're actually true, except Hyperliquid. And so if I'm going to sit there and guess where I should invest or what I should invest in, should I invest in Berachain, which has been down only and had negative news, negative feedback about it in general? Price action usually always feeds positive or negativity, doesn't it? Would I invest in Berachain, which is really entirely unproven, or would I invest in Hyperliquid, which is already proven itself and the price has actually gone up since launch, and it's a product that's actually making revenue? It's hard to say that Berachain can compete with other things which have such network effects and positivity going around it.
Yeah, well said. So I think it's just big takeaway there is how quickly, the sentiment towards certain projects and even just trends within the space are so fast moving. It's just the nature of crypto. That's why a lot of people, I think, just have BTC, ETH, and Sol. But yeah, I think in terms of things to look forward to this week, to be honest, it's a rather quiet week from what I've seen. There's some inflation data in the US coming out and whatnot. But as we said off the top of the show, like really, it's just all eyes will be on tariff news and what happens there. That will really dictate where crypto is at in the short term. And we'll finish things up here with our rapid fire. So yeah, underappreciated or underrated or overrated. I'll kick things off this week just with overrated. I think I have said this in the past, but I think it's back in the news now. The FTX, I guess, liquidation process has now started to pay out creditors, and that's kicking off, in the coming days, I believe. Just a reminder there, you'll see headlines that, there's around 14 or $15 billion worth going back to creditors. A lot of, influencers and whatnot are positioning that as, really bullish because it'll all go back into crypto. But as we've said previously, like a really big chunk of this is just going back to hedge funds, which have already, I guess, bought the distressed assets, certain people's claims. If they want to just get rid of their claims and sell them at a discount because they wanted cash quickly, they did that and sold them to the hedge funds. So them receiving these claims and these payouts from FTX in the coming weeks, these hedge funds getting that money is essentially just them closing their trade in a sense. So yeah, there may be 4, 5 or 6 billion that comes back into crypto at the most. We won't actually know the figure for sure, but yeah, it's certainly overrated for most of the takes that I've seen.
Yeah, that's a shame for the individuals who did, I guess, have distressed assets and sell out, because obviously, most of the money did actually come back through FTX.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, probably sitting there going, my God, if I'd just been able to hold on for a little bit longer, I would have been okay. But
yeah,
who would know? So a lot of people at the time thought they never going to get any money back.
Oh, of course, yeah.
My underrated element for this week was the Super Bowl did not have any crypto ads, which to me is actually quite bullish, because the last time we had a lot of ads at the Super Bowl was 2022. We had FTX do a huge one, Crypto.com, Coinbase and eToro all had massive ads at the Super Bowl. And so that was definitely showing that was manic retail period of crypto. We didn't have any of that in the Super Bowl. So to me, that means we've still got room to go. Like, this cycle's not over because we haven't reached that real retail mania, which I think is a good thing for us.
Lovely. That's what I need to hear. Good observation there, Simon. Thanks for sharing that. And we'll be back next week. So thanks for tuning in. If you are looking for more insights, see our weekly Shift newsletter. That's free weekly market insights straight to your inbox every Friday. You can subscribe to that at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.